if Eddie Murphy calls Netflix tomorrow and says, "I want a Netflix special," I think people will do it because it's Eddie Murphy. I don't know it will be a successful one, but
Yeah, that's a good question. The guy hasn't done stand up in like 20 years. Dave Chappelle's The Dreamer dropped on the 31st of December, quite unexpectedly. Um, like you said, I didn't know that there was a special on the way, but very pleasant surprise, I have to say. Very
yeah,
pleasant surprise.
yeah, it was a very pleasant surprise. I When I saw it, I was like, "Hey, Dave Chappelle has a Netflix special." I thought the last one was gonna be his last one, but I guess when you get used to that Netflix money, and when Netflix,
And Netflix is getting used to the Dave Chappelle numbers because it's you're not getting a
Monique numbers.
special if you don't get any numbers in. Yeah, Monique wasn't doing that bad. Well,
It wasn't the Dave Chappelle numbers, that's for sure.
wasn't the
I
trip.
mean, even Country Wayne, we also referenced Country Wayne special a couple of, well, months ago by now, um, and talked about how it is that Country Wayne was able to have a successful Netflix special, because yeah, at the end of the day, you get a Netflix special if Netflix knows, or at least can bet on the ROI. Bet
Mhm.
that the ROI will be good. And how does Netflix do that? Tries to look at at the reception, tries to determine how many hardcore fans you have. So you're seeing a lot of comedians now with shorts on YouTube, uh, you know, short clips on YouTube, trying to build communities, because I my theory is that that they are all want looking for that special, whether it's a Netflix special. In the past, it used to be the HBO special. But in order to get a special, in order to get people behind you to back your projects, you need to show that you have a Tyler Perry like backing. And the bigger it is, the better. And a lot of people are trying to create it by themselves instead of begging the various outlets, media companies to please, please, please support me.
No, I think Cat Williams a couple of years ago broke down how they basically calculate the amount they give you for the special. It's basically based on the amount of tickets you sell. So
In on the
on the
road.
road, it depends on if you sell $1 million worth of ticket. That's the minimum you're gonna get. So um, that's how they calculate it. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if back then when Monique wasn't offered that much, it's maybe because she didn't do big venues. She's doing small clubs, and then you get what you get because
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, it's at the
It's
end
it's
of the day,
it's
it's business, right?
yeah, it's double too. It's it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand you need to do good, but on the other hand, what Monique said, and you hear a lot of women artists go that route. They say they get underpaid compared to the other, so their male counterparts. That's I mean, Monique has had various public fights with other artists, other comedians, with Oprah, DL Hughley, a couple of, I think DL
Mm.
Hughley was the latest victim, Steve Harvey, and it's
Wherever
I
you go, there you are. They say
yeah, I mean, if you have a
there
problem
is
with everyone that
there is one common denominator in that.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, according to her, the common denominator is because she's a woman, but
mm,
according to the other people, it's She's the common denominator. I wasn't there in the in the rooms when these fights were being had, but whatever the case may be, my theory is that if you can fill the seats, you get the gigs.
Yeah.
If you can't fill the seats, you can't get the gig. What the reasons might be. What I like about Tabitha Brown, we had a show about Tabitha Brown. I don't know, like a long, well, everything seems like a long time ago right now, but I think more than 6 months ago. And Tabitha Brown built has a community
Yeah.
that it took her a long time to build, but everywhere she goes, she will fill seats. And that's because of her brand. So a lot of things have to do with the branding, not and people. I think people underestimate that part. It's not a fair business, but you have
In
to be so good. Yep.
content creation, it's basically what have you done for me lately kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you've been the greatest comedian ever, but don't pull the numbers anymore. You cannot expect the greatest comedian ever numbers being
Yeah.
pulled
Yeah.
as in payment. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. It's a very what have you done for me lately
Business.
build
Yeah.
business culture
Yeah.
in content creation these days.
Yeah.
People don't care if a year ago you had a viral. What if you're not viral right now? Do you remember the guy who was skating around and playing the do do know the then you say they want some freedom, that song. He got viral out of nowhere, and now he's doing average numbers. No one is
Mm.
giving him any deals. I mean, he's still pulling some views, but nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
Hey,
The content it changes continuously, and what I do find interesting about Dave Chappelle is that Dave Chappelle doesn't do a lot of, because there's always outliers, right? So you have the rules, you have the rule, and you have the exception. I mean, Dave Chappelle does probably do rounds because that's what comedians do
he does a lot
so
of tours. He did
yeah,
last year. He did an international tour with Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, yeah.
He
But
also talks about the tour in this.
yeah, but what's interesting is that when you think of him, how public is he? How in your eye is he? He's not. But they know because of the numbers that he. So I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Because everywhere they go, he sells things out, and because it's Dave Chappelle as well, they know that they can get that traction.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying is, he's not like a in your face, continuously on social media type of comedian. I'm Dave
he doesn't
Chappelle.
have to be.
It doesn't. That's what I'm saying. So he's already reached the legend status. So I think he can come out of retirement and get a Netflix special. So
Or did he
I think
actually retire?
no. I'm saying he can.
Okay.
He didn't. It's just like Eddie Murphy. Uh, if Eddie Murphy, if Eddie Murphy calls Netflix tomorrow and says, "I want a Netflix special," I think people will do it because it's Eddie Murphy. I don't know it will be a successful one, but
Yeah, that's a good question. The guy hasn't done stand up in like 20 years,
yeah,
probably more, 25, 30 years.
yeah. Of course, they would want to look at his material,
Yeah,
but because it's Eddie Murphy, I think they will try to they
they try to
just to say we Netflix has a Eddie Murphy special. But
special.
yeah, speaking of the Dreamer, Kara, what did you think of it?
I think it was. I think, to be honest, it was a pretty um, solid stand up. No jokes that I've heard, because in the previous tour last year, I went to the Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle tour. No joke that I've heard then came back here. So I think the
None.
way, not one,
Wow.
not one. I think the interesting thing about, and I've seen a couple of his latest specials. I think I don't know what's the official name for it. I would think in my head it's like a drip technique of telling a story, but where he makes a couple of drip references in the beginning of the show, and in the second half they all come together to a bit where he does that pretty well. The storytelling aspect, he gives you, like in the beginning he told the story of the Deborah. By the way, I'm gonna spoil a couple of things. If you don't want to hear it, shut it down and move. Maybe check the banners down below and go to
Yeah,
the other section.
yeah,
But basically, he tells the story of Deborah at the beginning of the show. He tells the story of the welcome to the grave, the Titanic bit, and then at the end, he tells the story of his wife finding the book. So his
exactly.
note. So that's the dripping technique that I call. I don't know what's the official name for it, but he did the same in the live shows. By the way, that I went to in the live show I went to. He
Yeah,
drips in the beginning, and at the end you get the full spectrum. I think it was a pretty solid. It was a pretty solid one.
yeah. I thought it was clean. I thought it was. If I compare it to,
Sticks and stones.
I didn't like that one as much. So
Okay.
I like them all, but let's say as it the like you have albums, rap
Mhm.
albums or hip hop albums or whatever albums, and you have some albums with good music, but then you have some albums that form a whole. Like you go from start to finish and it tells a complete story. It's not like individual hits, but it tells a complete story.